What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Sane, and today I've got an interesting video for you guys. So I have been, if you've been following my channel and are new to the channel, first off, welcome. I really appreciate all of you guys' support. Pokemon YouTubing has been something I've been doing for kind of just a little while. It's just kind of on the side, something I really haven't been putting a lot of. Not like a lot of time, like not full time or anything, but I like to do it as like a hobby on occasion sometimes. And I really appreciate all the support. I can't believe it's blowing up. I guess the number one namesake of my channel so far has been Nuzlocke tier lists. The Emerald one has blown up recently. I've been doing pre-run tier lists of Black and White that have been getting a lot of attention from people. By the way, if we can get Pokemon challenges to react to like my Emerald tier list or something, that'd be so cool. So somehow we can get that to happen. I will then do a reaction video of him reacting to me and then, like, respond to his shit talk about me ranking, I don't know, slacking A tier, to then, like, me responding to that with telling him why he's stupid for not putting slacking in A tier, and then just, like, keep it going. I don't know, something like that would be so super fun. Anyways, for this video, I want to talk about what makes an S tier and what makes a Nuzlocke tier list. And what do I do to basically rank a Pokemon, decipher whether they're S tier, A tier. I usually do this format of S, A, B, C, D. For most tier lists I do, especially with Nuzlocks. And I just want to talk about what the tier lists mean, how I rank them, like how I come to my decisions, and what are the things I look at to determine a Pokemon's viability in each game. In each game, because in reality, Tentacruel's viability in Emerald compared to Violet is different because there's different uses for it. It comes at a different time, stuff like that. So I'm going to go through it. So first off, the first part I want to talk about is the tier list itself. So how do you... What is the importance of looking at a tier list? Well, a tier list starts with the S tier. The S tier is the most important part of the tier list because the S tier is what is good, what is the best, what you're supposed to be using for the most success. A tier list is based off your success rate, like what things will give you success. And the S tier is the pinnacle of that. It's the goal you're striving to be. The best of the best are S tier. That's what you should be using for the best success. The A tier is still very good, close to S tier, but not quite there. The B tier is very good at something, but maybe it's not as useful for the rest of the game, or it's kind of in chunks. C tier is good, not the worst decision, but not the best pick either, and not like the most useful. You probably don't necessarily make room for something in C tier to be in your party. It's more like a slot filler. And then the D tier is utterly useless. Like literally, you're better off not using anything at all. Like you're better off not using this Pokemon than using a D tier Pokemon pretty much. They're just not good at all. So that's the list itself. The second thing I look at is I'll look at Pokemon themselves and what they can do. So first off, let's take a look at... I use Breloom as an example. Oh, come on, Bulbapedia. Don't crash on me now. Don't crash on me out in the middle of a list. Alright, Cerebi it is. So we take a look at the Pokemon and what they can do. We're take a look at Gen 3. So Breloom, we've got early evolution time, level 23. Grass fighting, good typing. We look at its stats. We see it's got decent speed, bad special attack, but really good attack, so it's not going to be a very good grass type to me, but it's going to be amazing fighting type to me. Not very good bulk, so it's not exactly a good pivot for me. I'll take a look at its moveset. It gets something like, I look at Mach Punch, which it gets on evolution. We get Sky Uppercut. Alright, so fighting type wise, it's got some good stuff there. End game wise, it gets... Mind Reader Dynamic Punch for strong stuff. We look at coverage. It's got some cool moves like Leech Seed early on when it's a Shroomish. So take a look at the moves, take a look at the stats, everything it's going to do for me. Okay, here's what it can do. And then the last thing you want to look at is what it can do useful to me in the scenario, in the game, based on its joint time and everything. Breloom, I get Breloom early on in the game. You get it in the forest. I can't remember what the forest is called. What is it called? Come here, Shroomish. Tell me what the forest is called. Petalburg Woods. Right after that is a rock gym. So I have a grass type for rock gym. So immediately I'm thinking, okay, it's good. It's got early join time. I've got it for most of the game, so I can look at most of the game and the matchups for it. Because For nuzlocke, you don't know what you're going. You don't know what you're getting, but you do know what you're going up against. And with the randomness that you get, you want to use whatever's at your disposal to get the best matchup for what you're going up against as you can. I hope that kind of makes sense. And how do you look at matchups? Well, you look at the gyms. The matchups are the boss battles. Is what I describe matchups is the boss battles, which is sometimes they're like sometimes your rivals. Your rivals is kind of interesting because their starter depends on what your starter was and stuff. But other matchup, and there's like the enemy team leaders and stuff. Those are some people you should look at, like Giovanni, the Kangaskhan, the Rhyhorn. You're gonna want a fighting type. It's got like Nidoking, Rhyhorn. You're gonna want a water type or a grass type. You know, things like that. So you want to look at big boss fights, which are hard battles. But when I play Nuzlocke, so I always level cap based off of gym leaders in Elite Four, and I really take them into consideration as the hardest boss fight because they dictate my entire match because of level caps and everything like that. So if we're looking at Emerald matchups, first gym is a rock gym. Grass type is going to be really good here. Flying types are not going to be good here. Bug types not going to be good here. Water types, fighting types going to be good here. So like that's, you know, I'm looking at matchups. It's like, okay, well, as good of a Pokemon as Swellow is, a Swellow wouldn't be useful to me in this gym, and a Shroomish or a Marill would be very useful to me in this gym because the matchup. Then we go to the second gym. We got a fighting gym. So okay, I want a flying type. I want a psychic type. There's meta types, so maybe I want a flying type more than I want a psychic type. I don't want a normal type. I don't want a rock type. Water type's not going to do anything special for me, but it's not a horrible pick. Then we go to electric. We go to fire. I take a look at all of these matchups and look at the important things. So as you can see here, we've got electric and fires, which means a ground type, and this time in the game is going to be very useful for me. And then we go to normal. So if it's a ground and rock type, then this Pokemon's going to be very useful for me for 3 gyms in a row. And then we go to flying. So if it is rock type, it's now useful to me for 4 gyms in a row. But if it's only mono ground type, it's only useful for these 2 and not as useful for these. So you take into consideration, okay, what can the Pokemon do? So we look at Breloom. So Breloom, Shroomish will be very useful for me here. It will not be very useful for me for this gym, but it's not a horrible pick. Grass resists electric, so it's going to be very nice for me here. Grass is then weak to fire, so it's not good for me here. It'll be a Breloom by this time, and it'll have fighting type coverage. It'll only have Mach Punch. I can maybe teach a Brick at this point because we're looking at level caps, but it'll be useful here. Then we come to the flying gym. It is not useful for me. I come to the psychic gym. It is not very useful for me. And then back at the water gym, it becomes useful for me again. So matchups. And then we go to the Elite Four. Sticking with Breloom, we've got Dark type leader. Breloom's amazing here. Ghost type, not going to be very useful. Ice type, Breloom's going to be very nice here, but also a little risky. And then against the Dragon type, not very good. And against Wallace, it'll be solid. It's weak to some things here, but also is a decent answer for a couple things here. Like being able to Mach Punch Wailord, just fast Water Spout, being able to do good against Milotic, and Wishcash, and even sitting and resisting some things from Ludicolo. So there's matchups I need to look at. Gyms in Elite Four, level caps, what their kit gives me based on level caps. For like one thing to note with level caps, and why things make things harder. If you're not playing with level caps, I could level Breloom up to what level does it get? Sky Uppercut. Let me get back to Breloom here. What level does it get? I get Sky Uppercut at level 36. The level cap for Norman is 31, so I could go 5 levels higher, get Sky Uppercut, have a level advantage for this, but the level cap stops me from doing that, so then I have to maybe use Brick Break TM if I have it, or just go with only Mach Punch as my fighting type coverage there. Changes some things like that. And I think that's all the points. So I got tier list as the point, what the Pokemon can do, and the matchups, and why I should use the Pokemon and its tools there. So I want to do a couple examples. In Emerald's the game I play the most, I have the most experience on, and this is the video I think I'm most well known for. So I'm going to stick with Emerald and kind of explain things. So as we just talked about Breloom, I put him in the A tier because we look at his usefulness. Well, he's very useful against the Rock Gym. Not very useful here, very useful. Not useful at all, very useful, not very useful, not useful at all, not useful at all, very useful. So it's very hit or miss when it comes to gyms, and then I come to Elite Four, It's very nice against 2 of them, not useful against the other 2, and good against, or pretty good against the champion there. So matchup wise, it's very volatile. It's got some very good ones that would make me want to put it to S tier, but it's also got some pretty bad ones that mean I'm never going to take it to that. So that pulls it down to the A tier. It's very good. It hits very hard. Its typing is very useful for the generation. The generation, the region. That's what I'm trying to say. If you look at here, grass types are pretty good here in the end game, especially, and fighting types are really good for the majority of the game. It's got both of those, does good things for me, so it lands itself in the A tier. What makes another A tier could be how useful they are. It doesn't necessarily have to be useful for the entire game, but I have Graveler, who is very useful to me. I do not get it for the rock gym. I get it here for the fighting gym, but I don't want to use it. Instead, it's very useful to me for the next 4 gyms. And when I say very useful, I mean it completely invalidates Watson, who is possibly the hardest gym in the game. Liz and Tate are looking at me funny after I say that too, but so I've got Geodude, who completely invalidates one of the hardest gyms in the game. Is a great answer for Flannery, not very hard. Great answer for Norman, who is also a somewhat challenging gym. Winona's can be pretty scary. It's good for most of this. It's not super great against Tropius and not super great against Pelipper, and obviously Altaria has Earthquake. So it's not the best pick, but it's still like useful, as we can see. So it's got a very good streak here, like an amazing streak. Handles one very scary matchup, is good for these next 2 matchups. And then it'll dip out a little bit here. Definitely don't want to use it against Juan, and then we come to the 4. Not super useful for me until we look at Drake, and I say, ooh, this rock type coverage could actually be pretty cool here. Not very good here. But it's super strong matchup against something very, very scary, which is Watson. Very, very scary. I think he's... I'm just gonna call him, for the sake of this video, I'm gonna call him the #1 run killer in Emerald. I think he is probably the #1 run killer in Emerald, because if you don't have a ground type, you're pretty much screwed against him. And the ground types you have available to you are Swampert, which is a starter pick, and if you randomize your starter pick, it's like you might not have Swampert. If you don't have Swampert, you are really hoping for a Graveler. And if you don't have Graveler, then he becomes a significantly harder boss fight, a really hard gym, very difficult. But if you have one of the 2 options, which Graveler, Geodude is one of them, this very hard boss fight becomes a piece of cake pretty much, and Geodude just takes care of it completely. And that is why he lands himself in the A tier. So even though he doesn't hold out to the late game, as after I get past Norman, it's not very useful. Like, Winota, it's fine, and then past that, it's not useful really at all. I'm going to put it in the box, maybe pull it out if I need an answer for Drake. So not very useful for the end game, but since it's so useful in the early game and completely invalidates probably the hardest matchup in the game, that also throws it in the A tier. So not useful for the entire game, not unanimously amazing, but very useful for some certain points, and is a key player in something like that. So let's take a look at some of the S tiers. S tiers, Gyarados has an early evolution. I get it guaranteed, although I don't necessarily look at like how you obtain the Pokemon out there, like how hard it is to get them, more just if you have them, how good they are. Gyarados has Intimidate. It's got amazing stats. It hits super hard. It's only got a couple weaknesses, which are really easy to play around. Gyarados makes it easy S tier. Another easy S tier, and it's good for like every gym, except for the flying. Like it's except for the electric. So we look at every gym. I can't take it here. It's 1 level off from being able to use it in this gym, but still not horrible. It's like not a bad pick here. Solos this gym. Intimidate Shuffling for this gym. Intimidate Shuffling for this gym. Very good special defense and has Bite and Surf. Very good for this gym. Walls most of this gym. Let's come look at the Elite Four. Intimidate Shuffling. Kind of walls everything here. Intimidate Shuffling. Kind of walls everything here. S tier. Look how it has 1 bad matchup. Look how it has 1 bad matchup here. So easy S tier. Another S tier. Swampert. As I was talking about invalidating Watson, Swampert does that while also completely taking care of Roxanne. And then invalidating here. Super bulky here. Super bulky against Brawly. You might have ice. You can get Ice Beam for this matchup, and also just being bulky to withstand earthquakes. Very, very useful for this matchup. Not very useful here. Bulky here, so it's fine. Bulky here, so it's fine. Bulky here, so it's fine. You can have Ice Beam coverage here. Not super useful here. But like you hear the universal ability that this Pokemon just brings. S tier. That describes an S tier to me. It's super universal. Like it can have some bad matchups here and there, but being very good and validating some things, being super strong in general, having only one weakness, easy to play around, just throws up an S tier. Like I'm listing so like when I have to work so hard to list something bad about a Pokemon, I throw it up in the S tier. Another one is Swellow. Swellow matchup wise, really only good against one gym, which is the fighting gym. Has two bad gym matchups, but then against everything else, nothing here is really stopped. Like you have these two here, I guess, but it has Steel Wing for that. Nothing here for the rest of the game is really stopping a Guts boosted Facade spamming Silk Scarf Swellow, which is a delete button. So I had to throw it in the S tier. Like nothing is stopping it. Like what? Like nothing is. It has the two gym bad matchups. It has two. So it's not SS tier because it's not good here and it's not good here. But against everything else, it's pretty much just taking care, like, except for Skarm, you know, the one matchup here, the two matchups here, but Steel Wing, so. And then we go up here, like, what, even against the Ice Gym, it's probably just blowing them all up before it dies. Facade, oh no, it gets walled out by a Facade. Oh, well, I'm just going to use Guts boosted Steel Wing, Guts boosted Fly here, crazy, or I can just not use it for this gym. Oh, crazy. So, that explains the S tier. I know it's kind of not as informational as like Breloom and Graveler was. It's just like that's what the S tier means. It's like, oh my god, this Pokemon is so strong. It goes in the S tier. A B tier. Do I have this Pokemon in the B tier? I actually want to double check myself real quick before I place it here, so I'm not talking about something I don't have placed. Wait a minute. Like I just trapped myself by not having a B tier to talk about. Let's pick a B tier. Who's a B tier to talk about? B tier to talk about. B tier I'm going to pick to talk about Linoon. Give me Linoon. Linoon is very useful against the Elite Four. Because of Belly Drum. Belly Drum, sweep, potential. It's a little risky, but once you get it up, you can completely sweep the Elite Four. So it's got some things it does good. It's also a very nice early game. Not against the first two gyms. But against everything else, just because of early game stab headbutt. It's fast, it's got some decent bulk to it, it's got some cool coverage, so it's going to be very useful and a nice fill Pokemon for most of the game. And it does have some things it does very well, which is the Belly Drum sweep of Elite Four, which is why a Pokemon like this goes into the B tier. It does some things good, it does some things not so great. Like it doesn't have amazing matchups against the first two gyms. It doesn't have a good matchup against really any other gym, but it doesn't have a bad matchup against the rest of them. It's very middle ground, good, useful, not the first pick, but also not the last pick. B tier. And B tier Pokemon have potential to do some really amazing things, like Belly Jump sweeping the entire Elite Four. Except for the Ghost one, but yeah, Shadow Ball. So never mind, yeah, you can sweep that one too. So yeah, it can do that. B tier Pokemon can do some amazing sweeps, like someone was talking about, like Quiver Dance, Lilligant in Black and White. It's another Pokemon I have in B tier. It can do amazing sweep potential, but it's not necessarily the best matchup for some things. It's not like completely invalidating some really hard matchups just by existing. You have to kind of set it up, and setting some things up can be a little risky, you know. Once I start having to kind of clarify things with the Pokemon and how good they are and things they can do, and see that their usefulness is not exactly as universal or ubiquitous as other Pokemon, it lands to the B tier. Which I could throw Graveler down in B tier. The only reason I have it in A tier is because Watson's so scary. So that's what the B tier Pokemon are. Something like Linoon can be super devastating, can be an amazing pick for some things, and then some other things not the best pick. Like Belly Drum Linoon against the Elite Four, amazing pick. Amazing pick. Against every other gym leader in the game, not so amazing. B tier. A C tier Pokemon is something like Seeking an Emerald. Seeking an Emerald, you can get it early on. You can get it in Dewford? No. You can get it early on in the second town you go to, where Norma's gym is in. If you fish with the Old Rod in the water, you can guarantee yourself, if you do Species Clause, you guarantee yourself a Magikarp, a Tentacruel, and a Seeking all at the early of the game. It has Horn Drill, I think, or Horn Attack. Not Horn Drill. It has Horn Attack, which is 65 base power, so it's hitting really hard early on. It also has Peck to be good against the Fighting Gym, which is right where you get it. Very useful for a time. Not very useful then against Watson. Comes back for Flannery, and then from there on, I don't necessarily see myself using it because of its lower stats, but it does have a niche. It does have a time period where I do appreciate it and do throw it on my team. That is where a C tier Pokemon lands. The Pokemon is fine for a time. It could be very useful for a time, and for the rest of the time, maybe it's not so useful. Maybe my team is just going to be filled out with a bunch of other flying types that I don't need to bring Seeking, so even though I have it, I might not be using it, but the potential for it is there. That is the C tier to me. Seeking is a perfect C tier Pokemon to me. Seeking an Emerald specifically is a perfect C tier Pokemon to me because it can be useful. It's got some good things going for it. It'll drop off eventually. It's good for a time period. That is C tier. And the D tier Pokemon are things like Lombre, Delcatty, horrible stats, even though Lombre has very good typing. Horrible stats, horrible move pool, nothing to do with this. Delcatty being mononormal is fine, but its stats are so bad. It's so weak, it's so frail, it's not very useful, it's not going to do a lot for me. Goes into the D tier. So that's the rundown of how I make my lists, using a couple examples. And also, I know about Linoone Belly Drum. Doesn't throw it in S tier just because it can sweep the Elite Four, because what does it do for you until you get to the Elite Four? Not so much, so it's B tier. So hopefully that explains some things. Hopefully that clarifies some things as I make tier lists of, what makes an S tier, what all the tiers mean. Again, C tier does not mean bad. Seeking is very useful for a little while. C tier does not mean bad. D tier means bad. This is the only bad tier I run. Also, I don't really order my tier lists much. I think some videos I talk about ordering a little bit, and then people kind of refuse. I really don't order with that much. Like, these three in S tier, I could throw this in any order I want to. They're still S tier. These two in A tier, I could throw this in any order. They're still A tier. It's not like, oh, Breloom is strictly better than Graveler. I mean, it probably is, but, like, they're used for different things, So I don't order things. If two Pokemon are the exact same thing, then I will order them. Like, let's say we have Machamp and Hariyama. They both have guts. They're both mono fighting types. They're slow. They have really high HP stats. They're bulky. They hit really hard. They've got similar coverage moves. I will order them something like this. Well, Machamp is going to hit a little harder, has a little bit more interesting coverage. I think. I think it has more interesting coverage. Or Hariyama gets Belly Drum, and it gets Fake Out, and it gets Smelling Salt, so it can make for some interesting pairings. So I'll have Hariyama above Machamp. Something like this. There might be some ordering in Pokemon like this, because these two do the exact same thing for you. They're bulky, strong, slow fighting types. So I'll order things like that in my tier list, but other than that, or Alakazam, Kadabra. Clearly Alakazam is better than Kadabra, but they're both fast psychic types. So I'll order things like that just for organization's sake, but that's the only ordering that I really do. So don't take consideration to my ordering of things as, oh, why do you have Swampert above Swellow? I don't. They're both S tier. So yeah, anyways, that's gonna do it for this video. Thanks for all the support on the channel. Again, I really appreciate all you guys. I'm gonna keep making videos here and there, maybe not as regular, just because my schedule is a little wonky with my life right now. I'm getting a new job and things. So, anyways, stay healthy, stay happy. I'm trying to figure out a channel motto. I'll get there one day. Anyways, thank you guys. And I'll see you later.